So, welcome to Karate Without Belts. Today is going to be a little bit different. Marty, unfortunately, will not be joining us, but I'm wearing a New Zealand hoodie to commemorate him. He's probably sleeping right now. I am joined by Jimmy Teller. How you doing, Jim?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Today we're going to interview Jimmy and just kind of talk about his life and his experience. Jimmy, anything you want to say in terms of like an introduction for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. Like to see where this goes.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. So, where would you like to start? Because I'm interested. Like, what's your first memory of karate? Because you grew up in Okinawa, right?
I grew up in Okinawa, so like that question is kind of confusing a little bit to me when you say my first memory of karate. Well,
Yeah.
karate probably, from what you guys are thinking to what I'm thinking, might be two different things.
Okay.
So, what my I guess my first memory is probably my mother, with the odori dancing and stuff like that. Um, that's probably my first memory of the martial arts,
Right.
um, of karate. So yeah, and then it's just strange. It's just growing up in that whole environment like that. You don't have you can't put a specific timeline. You're just born into it. It's like somebody that's I don't know, that's born into baseball.
Right.
When your family's been doing baseball for generations and generations. When's the first time you were exposed to baseball? You don't know. It's always been there. Yeah.
Was that always a strong part of your mom's side of the family? Was that like something everybody had always done, or just kind of like the guys, or is it just everyone was doing it?
No, I mean in my side of in the Chinen side of the family, we're actually both sides. My grandmother's side is Uezu, and my grandfather's Chinen.
Right.
So which is related. We're related to Teruo Chinen, and then Angi Uezu is on my grandmother's side. So yeah, it goes back generations and generations. My grandfather obviously trained and stuff like that. So it's always been around. It's not. It was always there.
Okay. And so that was more just woke up, went to school, came home. People were doing karate, did karate on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a whole different lifestyle over in Okinawa when I was a kid. Celebrations, you go to parties, somebody's doing demonstrations. My mom was dancing. You go to festivals, you go do this. You always seen it. It's always been in the village. You know what I
Right.
mean? During certain celebrations, it's performed out in the streets, and it's always been like that. Um, so that's how that was.
And so that was just kind of ingrained with what was going on there at the time. It wasn't so much there's something down the street like at a mall, like a shopping mall or something like that. Like we kind of think
No,
here, it's not seen. It's just seen as regular.
yeah, it's a whole yeah, it's totally different. Now remember I mean it's changed now, but
Right.
back then, you're talking about 70s and 80s. I don't even think there was even kids classes. You know what I mean? If there were, it was just mainly the kids were brought in and were put to the side of the dojo like I was, and one of the other students would tell us to go do Maigetis for most of the class, and then Yoko Gettys the next time we come. The side kick, the front kick, or just do our stances up and back. It was very, I guess, what everybody else would be considered boring, routine, and
Right.
stuff like that. It was just over and over, and we never said that. We never questioned it. That's what we did, and you just did it. You know what I mean? So it's different over there.
Was it more like everyone still had a gi and everyone still went in to do it, or was that more kids were just coming on the street? And
Oh
whatever
no,
they were
no,
wearing?
no. Out of respect, you always had the karate gi and stuff like that. Um, belts were a little bit. I, I don't think that I I don't remember. I never got a certificate, so kids weren't ranked.
Right.
So, but we always wore a white uniform. Um, I don't, tell you the truth, I don't really remember going through a promotion or anything like that. And maybe I did. I just don't remember. But yeah, you always wear a karate gi, and it's very common. Um, where I think over here in the United States, when someone sees a person wearing a gi or carrying a gi, it's kind of might be odd to them.
Right.
Where over there, it's like it's normal. You know what I mean? It's like somebody coming home from school with a football, with shoulder pads, not wearing the shoulder pads, but carrying their baseball and gloves and stuff like that. That's how it was. The culture is very different.
Right. So
I'm trying to paint this picture. I'm trying to go back in time.
No, it's all right.
So yeah, I'm trying to.
What was Okinawa like? Because your mom's Okinawan and your dad's American. What was it like, kind of growing up between those two kind of cultures? Having them, did they mix well? Was any sort of like maybe misunderstandings between your mom and your dad? Between culture, was language a little mixed up?
Now, well, Japanese was my first language.
Right.
So that question is, and again, it's a little confusing because I've only known, as a kid, you only know what your environment is.
Right.
So the Okinawan culture was there as part of me and my family and stuff like that. I thought I knew the American culture. I don't think I really understood the I know I did it because I didn't realize the true American culture until I moved to the United States. I always thought I had this concept of American culture because my father's American, but living in Okinawa, especially with my mom's side of the family, I was always around my grandparents, my cousins, and stuff like that. So I was surrounded by that. You know what I mean? And it always felt a little bit different because I was half. But my vision, my thought, I guess, if I'm thinking about, my interpretation of American culture is what I saw on TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like that. So, when I came here, it was obviously a big culture shock to me. And that's why I went through, and that's another story. I went through a lot of depression and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, coming here can definitely be a big shock from, I guess, coming from Okinawa.
Well, yeah, because, and if I'm getting off topic, just pull me back in. But I mean, and again, Okinawa is a small island. Everybody understands, knows, but my family's over there. I grew up with my grandparents, my cousins were running around, and my grandfather was living in Agena village, right? So that's who I knew who family was. When I came to this country, it was in between junior high and high school.
Right.
So, my personality, who I was, is already developed.
Right.
And now I come to this country right before high school starts, and I meet these strange white people. I shouldn't say white because I'm half white, but white people, American people.
Right.
And now my parents or my father's saying, "Oh, these are your grandparents." Well, to me, they're strangers. I didn't know them, so I went through a big depression. I withdrawed. I stopped eating to the point that they actually had to send me to the hospital and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it was tough. It was very tough. Everything was so big over here and stuff like. So that's what I'm saying. So what I thought of American culture, and I thought I was, I knew it. I didn't know anything. It was a big culture shock. As far as that goes. And the only thing, I'm sorry, the only thing that kept me sane, is that the right word? Like kept me on the right, was constantly going to the dojo. Train, because that's the only place that I knew what was home. So even coming to this country, the only place I felt like I was back in Okinawa again or home was in the dojo. So because going back, that's my whole family's life.
Right.
Um, the Okinawa family's life.
That's, I mean, that's a lot of what we talk about in the podcast too. Is like people find their like mental, they can release and kind of go to a dojo to kind of get away from the stresses of life. But even for you, it was almost like going back home.
It is definitely going back. It wasn't as far as yeah, it wasn't as yeah, it's definitely going back. To me, it was like going back to Okinawa every night. I go to the dojo. I spend a lot of hours in there,
Right.
So yeah, so I would just immaturely just think, I'm in the middle of Okinawa again at a dojo that I could, you know what I mean? It just felt like that, you know what I mean? So it was a stress reliever for that, like
Right.
that kind of stuff, yeah.
Was it when you came at that time, and I guess as you've grown up and kind of seen the changes over time, what did you notice that was most different between the Okinawan dojos and the dojos over here?
What did I notice the difference between Okinawan dojos and the dojos in America here? Um,
I mean, other than demographics, right?
Yeah. Obviously the teaching, um, it's kind of funny because I didn't realize that karate could be taught in English.
Right.
Like to me, I guess that was kind of funny sounding at first. You know what I mean? Like, you have people count, even something as simple as counting. You know what I
Right.
mean? Calling a soto uke a middle block. You know what I mean? Or a front kick a maige. You know what I mean? I guess that's a big. To me, I felt a little bit funny stances. The terminology. So I felt that was kind of weird. Belt ranking, the way it was so commercialized,
Right.
was very strange to me. And yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just more commercialized. It wasn't, I couldn't believe how much money their people were charging and this and that. It was just, to me,
Right.
it was kind of crazy as far as that goes.
Do you think that that kind of has changed away from that? Has kind of gone more towards, because that's interesting to hear, because nowadays it seems like more people are trying to be more like use more Japanese inside of what they're doing, or at least trying to. Or do you think that's kind of changed in any sort of way, or do you think that's gone back, or is it just kind of remained the same?
What do you mean here in the United States?
Yeah.
You're saying that you feel that most of the dojos are using more Japanese terminology?
Some are. I definitely know there was a point where some were using English and then they tried to switch over to Japanese, and then you get a lot of people who maybe don't understand the culture or even understand the pronunciation, so they'll say like "onagushimasu" and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's just kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Without really having much knowledge of the
Um,
culture.
you know what? I guess you might have a better sense of that than I do because, because when I train or teach, I don't go visit a lot of different schools. So it's always been the way I did it,
Right.
or you know what I mean. So, you might have a better experience as far as seeing that. I mean, I know what you're saying because I did meet a couple people that in our association and stuff like that they would be saying certain things I had no idea what the heck they were saying. You know what I mean? They're like, even some of the katas that they were calling, I had no idea what kata they were calling. They're calling, like Pinan Shodan. They would say, I don't even know how they would say it, Pinyan or
Yeah.
like they would use a weird word like a, you know what I mean? Like,
Peon or something.
or
like
yeah,
that.
it was, it's, that's kind of strange as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I because coming from an American context, or there's always kind of a sense of trying to get to the real thing.
Yeah, which is not bad. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. But it was just, it's, sometimes I got confused and I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. Sometimes,
Yeah. And definitely coming from where you were coming from over, and then coming over here, and then suddenly, it's the same but not quite the same. I suppose like you're doing your training, but then other people, they're pronouncing things in a different way. They have.
Oh yeah, and believe me, I'm picking up bad habits too now. I mean, I've been over here a long time now that
Right.
instead of calling like Shinto, I would say Shinto because I'm so used
Yeah.
to all the American people going Shinto. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And now I'm catching myself going, wait a minute, it's not Shinto, it's Shinto.
Right.
Or Naihachi. You know what I mean? Instead of how would they say? They would say, well, I don't know how.
But I've heard people be like Nai Hanchi.
Yeah, or something like that. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm falling into that category too, where I rush myself and I'm around, um, I shouldn't say Americans because I'm American too. So us Americans and hearing that all the time, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I'm picking up the bad habits.
The Americanized Japanese
Yeah,
or karate Japanese, as some people like to say.
yeah,
Even karate itself, karate not karate,
yeah.
is Americanized.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
you can't go around saying karate without people kind of looking at you.
Well, it sounds kind of funny because the R's and stuff, and I think when a person that doesn't, it's almost like it almost sounds like they're trying to be something that they're not when they say karate,
Right.
because it doesn't sound right. They're trying to do, like you did it perfectly. How did you say you
But
put, when you're mocking someone?
yeah, and that's where I think it's so
Karate's fine.
yeah,
So if karate you're comfortable with, stay with karate.
right,
You don't have to say karate.
right.
Um, that's fine.
But it's like, you have someone's culture, like where your culture, where you come from, and you come over here, and then people like use the proper pronunciation to mock what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's strange because you have the same people who are also doing karate, doing that. So it's a weird. We want to do this thing, but also want to mock it at the same time,
Yeah.
and that's where I feel it's like maybe you need to reconsider how you view this culture if you're going to participate in this activity.
Yeah, that's strange too when you mentioned mocking. And that's a big, when you were saying what's a comparison between karate in Okinawa and over here in the United States is, and that was one thing too about the mocking. You don't see that over there.
Mm.
Over here, I saw that a lot. You know what I mean? And that's kind of strange to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel about being the son? So did you do a lot of training in your dad's dojo when you came over here, or was there somewhere else where you were training, or was it always like in the house with your dad?
We're here or
Yeah.
over in Okinawa?
Over here.
Over here, my father always had a dojo,
Right.
so it was always yeah, it was always here. Um,
How about in Okinawa?
Okinawa, oh my gosh, so it's
Good.
depending on what dojo we went to. So
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it was either with Nagasato Sensei when I was younger. Um, wow, I mean, there's so many. Nagasato, you got Kina, Kanae Sensei, you got Kisei, you got Toma Sensei, Tamae Sensei. I was just surrounded by that. You know what I mean? It was just, you know, it wasn't. And I'm trying to paint this picture. It wasn't uncommon. Like when I was a kid, I remember Soken Sensei
Mm.
being at my house, dropping by, talking to my mom, sitting down talking, stuff like that. To me, I didn't realize who he was until later on in life, obviously. To me, it was just like an old man and another Okinawan old man that I thought I was related to. I just thought it was just another uncle or something like that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so the dojos that I grew up doing, it was their dojos. We went to their dojos. My father didn't have a dojo in Okinawa.
Right.
I don't think he did. Maybe he did. I don't know.
But
Or maybe he taught like on the base, maybe.
yeah,
So
I'm gonna find out from him maybe in a week or two.
yeah.
Because we're gonna hopefully if scheduling works out. But was it going to those different dojos and working with those different teachers? Was there any sense of like we go to this teacher, you do this style. You go to this teacher, you do this style. You go to this teacher, you do this style. Or was it more just you're going over here, you're doing what they're doing?
Nagasato was strict. I remember as a kid. You definitely did what he did, and I imagine they were all like that.
Right.
I just did what they did. So I grew up in the Goju-ryu system, the Shorin-ryu system. I grew up in all the systems. You know what I mean? I guess I'm fortunate to see that. You know, I mean, I understand Goju-ryu. I understand Shorin-ryu. I understand. You know, Ishinju is like I said, is my grandmother's cousin. So I was exposed to all that. You know what I mean? I understand all that kind of stuff. You know.
I'm just making sure this isn't gonna die on me. All right, that's good.
Yeah, but you don't go. If you're asking me if you go to, you would never go into another school and start doing. You know, say if you go to Nagasato Sensei's school and you start doing Goju-ryu katas, you don't do that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like that.
But there's never anybody who was like, well, you don't go over to these other schools. You only train here.
Oh yeah, there was like that. That's like that. But in my case, now again, I think because who my family was and stuff like that, I was able to be exposed to all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
So that it kind of allowed you to walk in other schools without them giving you much trouble, or
Yeah, I think so. And again, I was a kid.
right.
So if it was being said, it's not being said to me. You know what I mean? I'm just a kid in the corner doing, you know, front stance up and back, Zenkutsudachi back and forth for the next 2 hours. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you know, I was exposed to what they were saying.
Was your dad involved with some of that, or was it there's stuff that he maybe was kept out of, or would he always go those dojos with you, or
What do you mean?
was he your dad's training, like, so for example when you go to Nagasato Sensei, would he go with you, or was he training with somebody else?
No. So I always went with my father,
Right.
or my grandmother. So my grandmother actually played a. If I remember, my grandmother played a big role. My grandfather was always working. My grandmother would always come, and I was a translator between my grandmother and my father.
Right.
So my grandmother had a big influence. So we would go to a lot of different dojos and ask if my father could come and train and stuff like that. Then I would have to translate it back to my father and stuff like that. Yeah, you weren't just walking at. I don't think a military person was just walking up to any dojo and just knocking on the door and just see if they could join.
Right.
I mean, not the dojos that we went to. You know what I
They
mean?
weren't just the like Air Force based dojos.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you knew. From my feeling, I think there were schools. There were some dojos that were military friendly.
right.
I think Kisei was one of them and stuff like that. But there's schools that I remember. I was with my grandmother, and I had to tell my father they're not going to let you in here. You know what I mean? And a little kid telling their father, "Hey, listen, they're not going to let you in here." It's kind of, you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we, my grandmother had doors slammed, because of my father being American.
Right. Did that cause any? Did you feel that ever caused any? Maybe even looking back on it, caused any problems there, or was it more? Was there a feeling of acceptance about that at that time, or was there still some maybe animosity?
Oh my gosh, big animosity. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Was there? Do you ever feel there was a point where there was the eventual kind of acceptance of that fact of that? Or was it just kind of up until maybe the end with some of your relatives, they still were like...
Well, my grandfather's a big, like, I know, now this is, I mean, when my mother married my father, I guess it was very tough on my grandfather. And I remember as a kid, when my aunt started marrying my Uncle Ron,
Right.
oh my God, I thought my grandfather was going to kill somebody. You know what I mean? It was a bad scene. It was bad, you know.
Right.
So
Because you have to your mother and your aunt have both married.
yeah.
So which is
So
it's just very interesting. It's super interesting.
yeah.
And
Yeah, so that, I mean, my grandfather was real old school. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, he was so old school, I don't even think he went to Japan until I don't think he went to Japan until in the until the late 80s,
right.
90s. I mean, he would refuse to even go to Japan. He was so proud of being Okinawan and stuff like that, and everything had to be Okinawan that it took a while for him to even go to Japan.
And at that time it was like huge. They had huge problems up there with like between the two generations
Yeah.
of like after post war and then never having known that.
Oh yeah.
So like that's why I think that's why I think that even then he probably might have had a massively difficult time.
Yeah.
We kind of maybe reeling back into karate. No, because this all goes back to it, man. Like because it's very few people I think can really say that karate has always been in the family, at least in the way that you've had it, and then can also explain it to an English speaking world in a way that you can that I think you've experienced in such a dramatic, I don't want to say in a dramatic way, but it's been definitely part and parcel to most of your life.
Oh yeah.
So,
like I said, my mother started dancing at I think she'll be able to tell you probably like 4 years old doing the odori, which is the mix, which you know what they say there's hidden meanings in the odori dance with the martial arts. So she's been, you know, that was taught to her at a very very young age. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's part of the whole lifestyle of my family.
So when guys came over here, I know your dad always still had those strong connections with Okinawa, but then you guys met Oyata Sensei.
Oh no, that ain't how it happened. So
ooh, okay.
So we were with Seido-kan. Well, my father was with Seido-kan with Toma Sensei when we were in Okinawa. So when we came to this country, he was still at that time. It wasn't Seido-kan. It was Motobiru. So we were with Toma Sensei under the Motobiru system. We still had the same patch of Sensei Uehara and Sensei. Yeah, with the and then and then I'm trying to think back. So I probably a couple years after we got here, that's when the Motobiru, I think Toma Sensei had a break off with the Motobiru. So I remember going from that patch to the Seido-kan patch.
Right.
So we stayed with that a little bit, but it got a little bit difficult because of the distance of Okinawa and stuff like that. So my father knew that Oyata Sensei was here. That's good friends with Toma Sensei. So that's how that transition went over.
And was that like a friendly transition, or was?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Oyata Sensei and Toma Sensei really really good friends. Oh yeah, no issues that I remember.
Okay.
It's just a whole different concept.
You know how was meeting him for the first time?
Oyata Sensei? Tell you the truth, a little freaking strange. I mean, I've never seen an Okinawan guy wearing a belt buckle before. I mean, he had belt buckles and I think cowboy boots. To me, I thought that was strange. You know what I mean? Here, I thought it was like an Okinawan cowboy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting decision that he decided to stay in the Midwest.
Yeah,
as opposed to
I never understood that at all. But yeah, it was weird visually seeing him, but after talking to him, I felt I was back at home again. You know what I mean? And you know, just felt very comfortable.
Okay. Did you feel like of everyone who you met over here who was doing Okinawan karate, did you feel he was all very different, or did you think he was just doing more of the same, just maybe on a different spin or maybe on a different level?
No, I mean I knew right away he was different. And again, the experience that I grew up in Okinawa, right? the karate that I was used to was very, very basic and repetitious.
Yeah.
Repetitious. Um, no questions asked. If you had to do, like I said, punchings, uh, uh, single punch and a shikodachi stance for most of the class, that's what you did. There was no kids class. You know what I mean? So that's so so when I finally came to the United States and then meeting Oyata Sensei, and then prior to that, no, so we did some kumite. So over there in Okinawa, so the kumite that I was exposed to and stuff like that. So we did a lot of basics, and the kumite that I was exposed to was bogu kumite.
Right.
Um,
So that had always been the standard that everyone was doing, or was that more
when
specialized?
when in Okinawa?
Yeah, in Bogu.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, the people that I was around with was always bogu kumite.
Right.
I never really saw sport fighting. Well, I think I did see sport fighting or the form of sport fighting on the military base
Right.
with the GIs doing it. Never was exposed to it. I never tried that. And then really, the first time I guess I really experienced it when we came to the United States is the sport fighting. Up to then, it was always bogu kumite.
Right.
So, yeah. So when Oyata Sensei came and we were introduced and met him like that, I could tell. I mean, he was just different. I mean, he hurt you. He showed a lot of different techniques and stuff like that. And again, when I was over there, they're not teaching me any techniques.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not hurting me. I'm over here now, a little bit older, in high school. So I guess Oyata looked at me and says, okay, he could take a beating, and so, you know what I mean? It was like that kind of stuff.
What, going on from that, kind of going onward till his death, did you feel like, because I've heard this at seminars before with you, where it's like people are like, well, he's Okinawan, so obviously he learned different, or something like that. And how do you think maybe Oyata Sensei or Doma Sensei or anybody else who was Okinawan coming over here maybe interacted with you any differently than, say, a random American guy who had no connection to that?
I don't think it was. I don't think treating me differently might be the right word. I just understood what he was saying. So, and maybe, you know what? Maybe I am being naive a little bit. Maybe I was treated a little bit different. But the language barrier, I think, with American people,
Right.
there's a big language barrier. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then, so I think that's the biggest difference. And then maybe Oyata Sensei pulling me off to the side and speaking to me in Japanese or stuff like this, they might see, oh, he's teaching him a little bit different.
Right.
I don't think that was the case. It was just the explanation.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is I saw the translation of what they think that Oyata Sensei is trying to say wasn't matching up of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, left me a little bit confused. It's not my place to fix anybody. I'm a young guy. You know what I mean? It's if Oyata Sensei says it's fine and this and that, I let it go. You know what I mean? I mean, I wouldn't dare to question that. But what I did know is what he explained to me in Japanese, it was different from what they were getting at.
Do you think there was just maybe something lost in translation? Like he was saying, do this thing, and then somebody was interpreting it that way, and then that group of people went off and did it that way, but didn't really get the idea 100%. And because I see that with that group where it's like, you get these people who a couple different people get one idea, and a couple different people got another idea. And the man was a man of ideas more than anything else, right? But I feel like there was a lot of people who maybe kind of, because look at those old videos, I see them a lot of people nodding, but not a lot of people. You can see the wheels aren't turning in their brains the same way that maybe yours was.
Yeah. So what I remember, the biggest thing is, and he always said this, and he always said this, but for some reason it wasn't registering in people's brain. But if you ask people that have been around Oyata Sensei for a long time, they will agree that Oyata Sensei always says, watch my feet first. Watch my feet first. And again, you ask any of the older students of Oyata, they will agree with. They have to agree with that. The disconnect is as soon as he starts doing technique, people. I mean, my eyes were glued to Oyata Sensei's feet because he's telling me in Japanese, "Ashimita," look at my feet in stances, stuff like this, and everybody else is watching his hands striking and this, and that's one thing the biggest thing I noticed, and I think that's where things started getting lost because they weren't worried about his feet anymore. They're seeing him striking the arms and going right to that. They were just excited about that.
Right.
Now, if you're twisting your body and trying to strike people, and you're twisting your body, it's not working. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
if you're not worried about what your lower body's doing and you're trying to mimic what he did with his hand, there's that disconnect. I think it grew from there.
And his feet were subtle. They weren't. He never made. He never looked like he made huge motions with them. It looked like he was doing shifting, but he wasn't doing massive.
No. See, that's where the difference. Yeah. That's he's doing a lot with his feet. So,
right.
Understanding, keeping your feet quiet, open up your feet, weight on the balls, weight on the heels, the weight, the angles he was using. There was a lot of things going on that he would explain to me.
Right.
To me, more so than the hands. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you if you know how to move your feet and your hip and obviously your hips and everything work together and stuff like that, that hand, the te is going to be shizen natural. It's just going to naturally hit and strike like that. So I disagree with you with that. To me, when I see these videos and watching him and in person, that's what I remember. He was explaining calm feet.
Right.
Not gripping all the time, where there was another mistake. A lot of people are saying, oh, getting a kibadachi and you want to grab the floor and this and that. You don't want that tension because you're not going to be able to move. Your body's tense from the ground up. You know what I mean? He always told me keep a quiet foot.
Right.
You know
that's very interesting because it doesn't look like he's making. It looks like his feet are moving, but it doesn't. He's not like going big step,
no.
big step with any movement. He's kind of letting it. He knows where to put the feet, but he doesn't know how.
Yeah, but then that just goes back to my mom's thinking too.
Right.
In odori dancing, they're taught to walk a certain way, toe heel,
Right.
to move, right? You're not taught like that in karate.
Nope.
I don't know any school that teaches toe heel like this way that the okinawan dance and the odori does. That's very important. That's very important to incorporate that in karate.
Now, do you think from then people should be less investing in makiwaras and more investing in dance lessons?
No. I think you should do it. Listen, makiwara. No, the makiwara training is good. You know what
right.
I mean? I know some people are hardcore about it, some people aren't. I think it's equally important.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you definitely see a lot of people say makiwara, but people say odori. They say that's nice. Look at that at a festival.
Yeah, because that investment's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
In that, in the makiwara training, the board, the hitting the board is, you could go spend 15 minutes. It's fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something that's easy and quick and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and you have to have someone who like karate kata. A lot of people know that. Odori, not so many people have that access to that.
No, that's where I feel like I'm lucky. I stand out a little bit because I'm part of that world too, indirectly.
So how do you think that, I guess from the experiences here in Okinawa, can kind of moving forward in the future, where do you think like karate should go then, especially with a lot of that generation from Oyata Sensei's generation is maybe only has 10, 20 more years before they're all gone.
Well, I think the biggest thing that, and listen, you have no control where it's going.
Right.
What I would like to see people start recognizing a little bit more, and this was and you're right. You're losing this because the older generations are dying off and this and that. And I don't think it's being taught as much or it's overlooked. Is karate is meant for making your body healthy, and the way that people are doing karate now, they're damaging their body, right? They're causing knee problems. They're causing hip problems. They're causing,
which you just recovered from.
yeah, and I'm included because I was one of those knuckleheads that, didn't listen to my body. You know, I was taught the proper way. I didn't apply it the proper way, right? So going back to it, karate is meant for longevity, and so doing it just to make your body strong and healthy, making the proper body mechanics, I guess,
Right.
making sure that you're throwing a maigeri front snap kick. Your front foot should be open a little bit to take the pressure off the front knee, to allow your hips to move natural shizen, because everything should be natural shizen, right? It shouldn't be going against things. Like, you shouldn't be throwing a front kick and causing a lot of twisting on that front knee. And again, you're going to have knee problems and stuff like that. So I that's the only place that I like to see karate go. It's more making the body healthier.
Right.
you
Doesn't
know?
matter what style it is. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with style. Body mechanics is not prejudiced to one style. Body mechanics is body mechanics. It's right or wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're doing it wrong, your body's going to feel and hear it. But you got to educate yourself. Just don't do it. You have to have a good teacher. You know what I mean? And if you
Yeah.
feel like you're doing something wrong, question it. If he doesn't know it, then question somebody else.
Yeah. And do you think
But
that's
spiritually too, but that's a
Right.
whole different thing.
right?
For me, karate's spiritual too, right?
Do you think that?
And that's a big difference too with the American people are very that makes them uncomfortable. I grew up in an Eastern philosophy. Buddha, Buddha was natural to me, right?
Right.
And ancestor worshiping. It's not ancestor worshiping. It's ancestors respecting.
Right.
We shouldn't say worship. We only worship one God. But spiritually, there's nothing. To me, there should be a connection there too. Not just physical, like hurting people, but a spiritual thing too.
Right. Do you think?
But that makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's definitely there. I don't think there's anything in karate that externally says karate is Zen Buddhism or something like that. But there's definitely a connection there because you're moving your body, you're building determination, you're building mental force as well as physical force. But you need something in the center there to balance both of that. Do you think that?
What do you mean? There's nothing there that?
Kind of like you're building your mind and you're building your body, but of course spirit's kind of that third key with all human beings. Not to get like super metaphysical. Where did we go? But that some schools will teach meditation and stuff like that, or some schools will teach kind of to be at peace. And some Americans think that's hokey, and some places think that's...
But see, all dojos that I was exposed to in Okinawa
Right.
growing up, we always meditated. Beginning and meditate. The spiritual was always there. We bowed to, every dojo there had a, what do you guys call it? When you guys have it in the front of the room with the pictures.
The show mat?
The show, yeah. But what do you guys call that?
There's no good English word for it.
Okay, well, anyways. But see, where you're paying respect and stuff like that, that's a spiritual thing. That's, in Okinawa, that's their beliefs, just paying,
Right.
mokso, when you're meditating, that, the right hand inside the left hand, that whole thing is, that's all ties into that, you know what I mean? So to me, that's natural, and it should be.
Right.
But people feel uncomfortable about that.
Do you think... Was it very... in any way detailed... in any way...
Because wait a minute, because then it does
Right.
become just strictly violence. Then
Right.
then karate doesn't. American schools look at karate as very violent. Over there it's a little bit different. It might look violent, but then it doesn't become violent. You know what I mean?
But then, was Mokuso or anything like that ever explained? Were the details of that ever explained in class, or was it just it's something we do, and it by repetition it becomes that?
No, nothing's explained because you grew up in that culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like asking. I don't know when you guys went to grade school here was. Didn't you guys stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance or stuff like that?
I believe students still do that.
Okay, but was that explained as a kid? You just did it, right? Yeah. So that's the exact same way over there. It's just it wasn't explained. It's just we did it you did it at home.
Right.
You did it it was just natural.
Cool. Do you think there's any real good recommendations you can give karateka now, who are maybe in a point of like struggling, like you said, where like their bodies aren't feeling right, or maybe they don't know where really to go with their martial arts, and kind of what's kind of the best, not the best school or anything like that, but more kind of the best personal paths to take with it.
The only thing I could talk to is about the Okinawan karate, right? Shotokan, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know Japanese. I don't know Korean. Right. But Okinawan karate, if you're going to study Okinawan karate, you should not be so naive and think that one way the system, Shorin-ryu, Goju-ryu, stuff like this, the Nahate, Shurite, Tomarite, you should be, not that you should study each system, right, but be aware of it.
Right.
Don't be so narrow-minded, you know what I mean? Because I know even in our system, the Oyata system, they don't do Shigodachi.
Right.
Shigodachi is very, very important in Okinawan karate. So if you don't understand Shigodachi, how are you going to really understand? Now, this is Oyata Sensei always telling me this too. You know what I mean? You have to be you have to understand. To fully understand, you got to understand everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where I guess I keep going back. That's where I guess my development underneath the Goju-ryu system, the Shorin, that just was naturally there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was lucky. But, I understand all the stances, the stuff like that.
Okay.
Sanchin, all that kind of stuff. It's
So to always try to keep a wide perspective of.
Yeah, absolutely. And understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some of the stances could hurt you. Kibodachi, for the longest time I used to see people in a kibodachi position, right, trying to squat. And they're putting so much pressure on their outside, their joints, their ankles, and this and that, because your feet are pointing straight like this way, but you're trying to squat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty tough on your ankles, especially if you're older.
You're not getting stronger.
You're not getting stronger if you're older. If you're starting the martial arts at an older age, your joints, you're putting trauma to the outside of your ankles. You know what I mean? Shikodachi, a natural motion. Squatting down is more of a natural, could relieve that kind of stuff. Get the same effect, right? But so you got to be smart. That's what I mean by going back to making longevity, making your body healthy, and this and that. You don't want to break down your body and destroy it. It's stupid.
Right. Go for the long road.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, thanks for sitting down and talking with me. And
no problem.
Hope maybe sometime we get to do this again.
Yeah. I hope I didn't confuse you or got off topic or anything.
No. Believe you me, this is probably more on topic than we are most of the time. All right, folks.